Now, though former President Olusegun Obasanjo insists he has no preferred candidate for the presidential election, flag bearers of the APC, PDP and Labour Party have since visited him at his Abeokuta residence. Correspondent Ademola Lawrence examines these meetings and the political posture of the elder statesman.
After former President Olusegun Obasanjo hosted presidential candidates of the ruling All Progressive Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his Abeokuta home 4 days ago, he met with the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, and the Rivers State Governor Wike in London in what political watchers believe is an high-stake negotiation ahead of the 2023 presidential election. Governor Wike attended the meeting with his allies, including Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, Samuel Otom of Benue State, and Okezie Ikpeazu of Abia State. Former Cross River State Governor Donald Duke was also there. This came 48 hours after Bola Tinubu's London meeting with Governor Wike and associate became public knowledge. And after which, a strategic meeting between the governor and the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, also in London. The long-awaited meeting between Atiku Abubakar and Nyesom Wike finally held in London. No official information came thereafter, but the guess that the meeting sought to reconcile the two party leaders cannot be far from reality. Present at the meeting was Governor Ahmed Umaru Fintiri of Atiku's home state of Adamawa and Governor Otom Makinde Ikpeazu. An official statement from the group of Bola Tinubu had disclosed that both Asiwaju and Wike met in London to discuss strategic alliance ahead of the presidential election and acknowledged the need to work together to ensure that Tinubu becomes president in 2023. Also, President Obasanjo's fondness of Peter Obi is no longer a secret, as the Labour Party's presidential candidate had on several occasions met with the former president. But what some political watchers may be trying to reconcile is why former President Olusegun Obasanjo is meeting with different candidates while saying he has no favorite candidate. Ademola Lawrence, TVC News, Lagos.
And we have the Commissioner for Information, Delta State, Charles Anagu, standing by to speak to us more on this, but that will be after the break. If you live in Nigeria and if you have a very keen interest in Nigerian politics, you would have seen the politicking ahead of the 2023 elections. But let's speak to how this concerns the PDP. Let's bring in Commissioner for Information, Delta State, Charles Anagu. Good to have you join us.
Thanks for having me, Precious. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. But let me start with this meeting of the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, with the general, also former head of state of the country, Abdulsalami Abubakar. But before that meeting, he had met with the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the UK, and then also met with that of the APC in Nigeria, back here in Nigeria. But I haven't really heard anything about him meeting with the presidential candidate of the PDP, even though the former president used to be a member of the PDP. What exactly is going on in terms of support from the former president?
Well, the one thing you must realize is that the former president is a man that is very well respected, both nationally and internationally. His views are held very high, both in this country and, of course, outside the country. So everybody naturally would want him to be on his side. Not because he, practically speaking, have more than one vote, but in terms of his influence, he has a whole lot of votes that could go in his own direction. And that's why everybody would love him to be on their side. But just yesterday here, he made it very clear that at the moment, he doesn't have any preferred candidate. He may have expressed certain views before now. But yesterday is the most recent, where he said he has no preferred candidate, that he will be looking at issues that have border more on national interest. And he and his colleagues, talking about former presidents, the likes of Ibrahim Babangida and, of course, the likes of Abdulsalami Abubakar, are most likely going to be in a position to define what national interest means, having been in that position and having been able to control our affairs. Today, you can rightly say that they are statesmen. So I am quite confident that as they continue to make progress, there will be a whole lot of interface, both virtually and physically. And so there's still so much time ahead of the 2023 elections for the former president and indeed a number of other notable Nigerians to continue to interface with the leading candidates in the course of this election. And so I don't think there's any problem at the moment as to where he will pitch his tent.
I would like to jump in just quickly, because when you say you don't think that there is any problem, I mean, this is someone who served with him as the vice president of the country in the 8 years where he was president. It should be a no-brainer to, I mean, immediately just endorse him or support him. He didn't support him, I think it was in 2015, but in 2019 he did receive the support of the former president. So one would have thought that that would just be a no-brainer. It would have been easier, except there is maybe they have fallen out.
No, Obasanjo is not a street boy. He's not one of those who listen to beer parlor discussions and make a decision. Obasanjo would also like to look at the programs of other persons who are seeking for the #1 position. Obasanjo is a man that you can say is a nationalist. Beyond the fact that former Vice President Atiku worked with him very well between 1999 and 2007, Obasanjo declined to support him to succeed him at that time. But you also recall, like you said, in 2015, he was not on his side. But in 2019, which was just the last election about 3.5 years ago, he supported Atiku to take over, which means he believed in his capabilities. But this time around, it depends on the scenario of the moment. He may have also looked at the other candidates and said, okay, before I make my own predictions and take a position on these issues, I need to know what is on the table, who is going to serve the Nigerian interest much better. And so to that extent, you are not going to say that he's wasting time or that anybody is losing his support. I'm quite confident that the love Obasanjo have for Nigeria will make him take a decision that will be much more altruistic rather than the spur of the moment.
You know that I'm not going to let you go if we do not talk about the meeting or the attempt at reconciliation between your presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, and the governor of Rivers State, Wike. We haven't so much heard anything from the governor of Delta State. I asked you the last time you and I spoke what their relationship stands, and that's the governor, Okowa, and Wike. What is the governor's position on this, the move and reconciliation and some of the demands that have been made by Wike? And then where does their relationship stand?
Well, let me tell you that beyond the issue of Wike being the colleague of Governor Okowa, they also live together more or less as brothers. You could have certain differences in terms of political persuasion, but at this time you can't even say so because both of them still belong to the PDP. They are very good friends, but when you have a disagreement in a house, you do expect that there are certain mechanisms that you need to deploy to be able to lay such matters to rest and have everybody move in one direction, and that is what is being done. It is not all discussions that are going to be in the front of camera or on the pages of newspaper. There are a number of discussions that are also taking place behind closed doors. That is with a view to having one house and forming a team to be able to move in a certain direction that could bring them back to winning ways. There's a saying in the part of the world where I come from, that when you direct your urine into sport, it produces what looks like a dividend in the form of the foam that comes with it. And so when the members of the PDP come together and able to look at these issues, it will, at the end of the day, helps them. It is not only the vote from Rivers that matters to the PDP. They are also very much interested in the logistical support that could also flow from that direction, knowing that that is a very critical state in the PDP. And so many who may be worried that why is it taking so much time to be able to get the whole thing sorted out? Yes, it will take so much time because there are a lot of that is at stake. Don't forget that Wike contested and had a good showing in the primaries of the PDP, and he has some followers who possibly may have buried their interest in his own ambition. And now with the collapse of that ambition, you will see that those other persons may believe that their own interest is collapsing. And so for them to rebuild trust in whatever interest they may have had in the ambition of Wike, they will need to get involved in some level of engagement. And so that level of engagement is not what you feel can be handled in one day. What is good enough is that the presidential candidate of the PDP is very much disposed to discussion. He's engaging these individuals. He's not carrying on because he felt he has won and then it doesn't matter. He believes that you need a common house to be able to defeat the APC that has performed very abysmally as agreed by a number of Nigerians in the last 7 years. And so the PDP is working on those individuals who may have just like the lost sheep, and then the owner decided to go after the lost sheep, and then leave those ones that are within the flock at the moment. And that's what the PDP is doing. And we are quite confident that both Governor Okowa and his principal, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, are very mindful of the need to bring everybody to the table. But let me also tell you that beyond the issue of disagreements that you may see that is happening at the level of the presidential, which is national, there are also the need to settle a number of other persons at the state level. There are individuals who contested for governorship elections on the platform of the party, ditto other parties, who couldn't get the ticket, that are also hoping for some form of engagement. All that
and we're seeing, we're watching out for,
State and vice presidential has been
and we're watching out for how all of these will be resolved. I mean, from the pictures on your screen, you can see that Wike is not just River State. We have he's also Oyo State. He's Abia State. And so that means he also has regional control. So we'll see how that plays out. Thank you so much for talking to us. Commissioner for Information, Delta State, Charles Aniago.